right, gentlemen, it is the end of the day and it is 5 o'clock somewhere. So we're getting ready to wrap it up, head back to the house. I'm gonna share with you guys my final thoughts on the Icon 1/4 inch lineup. Doing some Q&A, posted a couple of pictures this morning, asking you guys who is your go-to meter and why for the automotive industry. Some of you guys might also be in construction or electrical, and ergo you have your go-to meter and you wanted to throw that up there. Thank you very much, because that kind of aids into the decision-making process of what meter is the one that everyone wants. But before we go home, I had a message at some point in time from an unknown source of someone complaining about the 3/8 switching mechanism and it having too much of a gap to possibly get caught in a wire harness. And I wanted to take one of the more common size wires and show you what it looks like if that's going to be an issue. And I also want to say one other thing. Okay, so first of all, if you've been working in automotive at all for any number of years, most of the time you're going to be pulling the harness out of the way to get it out of your way to do a job. Now for some smaller stuff, yeah, you might still have to work around some harness pieces. For the most part, you're going to run into conduit. Very unlikely you're going to be this close to the wire itself with the ratchet. But be it that it may, I thought I'd do some side-by-side comparison between the Icon and my Snap-on, because that's what they're comparing it to, correct? All right, that being said, I'm also grabbing one of the more common pieces of wire, which you'll see here. And this goes down to 18 gauge. Okay, now will an 18 gauge fit through the selector switch? That's what we're looking for. So first, let me pick up the Icon to show you the raised selector switch. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up the Snap-on that was my previous ratchet until I made this other one almost full time. But you'll see it's a little bit closer to the head. But is this going to be an issue working around the harness? That's the question that I'm being asked. I'm going to say no, and let's find out. So here's the 18 gauge wire. Okay, so I had to wrap it around just to show you that it was out of the way, but it is not going under the switch. And if I actually really tried to work on it, let's see. So if I take this wire and I really shove it up underneath there, yes, I can get it to fit, but I really had to shove it underneath there. Just by bumping it, no. You'd have to work this thing back and forth to get up underneath the switch. I'm not saying that it's not possible, because clearly I'm able to do that with an 18 gauge piece of wire. But again, how often is that really going to happen? Most wires covered with conduit, and most wire is going to be out of your way when you're working on nuts and bolts. If you get the selector switch caught up in a piece of wire while you're working on a car, you're doing something wrong and you need to stop. All right, guys, how's it going? We are back at the house. It's beer 30. Earlier this morning, I posted a picture of my DVOM that I purchased off of eBay, though I did have one that was a bit older than this that I first and originally started off with in community college, made by Snap-on, and it's one that I've learned how to use because we were a Snap-on affiliated community college. And needless to say, I just kind of stuck with their meters ever since for automotive. Now at home, you guys know I've got the Klein stuff here at the house, whichever drawer I've put it in. But I've got the Klein DVOMs here at the house, and that's what I trust using around the house. But the Snap-on all the way for automotive. But a lot of you guys had some really good comments, and I think we should go through and scroll through a few here and just select the, well, let's just select what you guys said and go from there. I own the same, this is from Dylan Lindquist. I own the same meter, same as you. My college in Portland, community college. Sweet. I went to Albany, Lynn Benton Community College. Okay, Elkblood01 says, fluke and only fluke. Snap-on was too sensitive and didn't have good luck with the Klein. Unfortunate to hear, but hey, your experience is your experience. No one can take that from you. Vidkin Quisling, probably mispronouncing that, says fluke. Jaden Paul, fluke. American Greatness, as an electrician, I use fluke for everything. Coffee Man says fluke, Keysight, and Gaussian Matrehit. Why? Question mark. Because they're making them for decades and specialized on measurement instruments. So look guys, I'm gonna go with one more here, and then after that you guys can go back to our community page on our homepage. So if you go back to my homepage, go under community, you'll see some of the discussions that we raised during the regular work week, and you can be a part of it, chime in, and look to see which meter was the best meter. But so far, we're seeing a lot of fluke. So that'll pretty much wrap it up for that post. I posted one more post asking you guys what you did, because early this morning, first job of the day, had to pressure wash the undercarriage of this van. Make sure there was no leak. Let's see. I'm trying to fix transmission coolant line on an 06 Durango. I can't believe they discontinued the part at all parts stores in the world. Oh well, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know? And that was from Dallas Cowboys. Yeah man, sometimes you gotta adapt and overcome. I hear you. Tito92 says, power washing a cedar fence to prep for staining. Nice. Someone else is cracking jokes at the face that I made in here when the water initially hit me while the picture was being taken. Doug E says, a good wetsuit is worth investing in if you do it that sort of thing frequently. I don't know about a wetsuit. I think what you mean is like some kind of parka or poncho or something like that. Protective water gear. I gotcha. Yeah, me man, it's hot out here and it's the summertime. Usually by the time I'm done pressure washing, I'm almost dry when I step outside, so no big deal. But yeah, cool. I totally agree. If you're in the cold, it might be worthwhile in getting some kind of parka. The voice of reason says, at least you don't have to deal with the winter salt and snow dripping on your neck under cars you work on. Try that for a day. That's nasty. Yeah, no, so I don't have to deal with a lot of salt or snow dripping on me so much, but when it downpours, when it rains heavily, or when it hails, and there's been a couple times we've had snow, and you bring it in and it starts to melt, or someone just got done off-roading and then you get these just lobs of dirt clods and just muck falling on you. Believe me, I've been in some nasty spots, but I understand what you're saying. The salt and all the nasty stuff falling on you constantly, that's got to get annoying pretty quick. At least I'd say half the year I don't have to deal with that as much, but half the year I still have my fair share of nasty to deal with. Alright guys, I'm going to wrap that up for that portion of the Q&A. You guys can go to that page and take a look at it in our community settings and see what you missed. Overall thoughts and opinions about the Icon 1/4" stuff. Very, very, very smooth design. 90-tooth technology. Love the length behind it. I'd say pretty close in comparison to, for the fixed head, it was pretty close in comparison to the Matco one that I had. Really like that the selector switch is on the bass backward side of things, if you know what I'm saying. In my normal position, what I'm used to, you know, you put it here to go on, and I'm pulling it towards me. I love that feature. You want it off and you're pushing it away. I absolutely love the fact that I got a little bit of normality behind the product. It's been absolutely smooth. I used it for betterment of half the day. Took early lunch, grabbed them up from the house, raced back to work, and then just put them through the full test, guys. Had to do a water pump and exhaust manifold. I tried it out on various fasteners that you guys might have seen throughout some of the clips. Other ones I'll try to throw down here for you. But look, there was some talk about the fluting. We brought that up in a previous discussion. I used the 10mm and 13mm today with the studs that stuck out pretty far. I think it was 1/4 inch wide-ish and about a 1/2 inch or so deep. The fluting just absolutely slid right over. I didn't have any problem with the fluting whatsoever. I'm not saying that's not possible, that there are certain fasteners on vehicles that you might have difficulty getting in, but I'd say for what it's worth, I think the fluting's right on par. I'm just throwing that out there. I know we previously discussed it, and I said, well, that could be an issue, but there's no way for me to actually tell unless I actually run them through the ringer and find out for myself. They said, no problem, we're sending you some out right now. I said, perfect. So they sent me out the set. I still have, you know, obviously tons of different, there's still time to use these tools more often and see just how well they continue to hold up, or see what kind of issues that I may run into along the way. But as of right now, I haven't had any issues with the fluting. I haven't had any issues with the broaching. I don't have a socket right in front of me, but go a little bit more involved, or at least in detail later. All I can tell you is that the broaching on it sits a lot closer to the top, so that way if you have to use a deep socket, you get down there, you can actually set it in right away. It's not going to fall down the barrel of the socket. It's set closer to the top, so that way you can actually grease it up if you want to, set it on there, and thread it on down without having any issue. The deeper the flute, the deeper the broach, the deeper the nut will go, and then sometimes they stay in place, other times they get twisted or cocked to the side. I've had that happen a handful of times, but I always try to throw a little grease on there. Or if I know that I can get it started with a shallow, I'll at least get 1 or 2 threads started with a shallow, pop it off, put the deep on, and then throw the deep over it, especially if it has a deep broach. But this one has a shallow broach, and the fluting was perfect for me today. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. Removing the Chevy Cobalt water pump. So some interesting situations here, and I'll try to throw a little card down here, but yes, you know what, you can totally get away with using a regular chrome socket, but if you have a magnetic socket like this little Sunex 10mm deep that I have, I think I just bought that one specifically, is perfect and ideal. Now I don't like having to have a ratchet with the deep socket on there because there's not a whole bunch of room in between the side of the body of the car itself, or the frame of the car, and going into the water pump where it's recessed into the timing cover. So I like to always start it, and when I'm cracking it loose, I'll put the ratchet on with the mid socket. I like using a mid socket to crack it loose. And then I'll take the deep magnetic socket and I'll just sit there and I'll work the fastener out, and I'll set it off to the side. And then when I go to put it back in, you know, I don't have to worry about it falling down into the timing, but you always want to throw a little comfort rag in there somewhere to catch it in case it actually does fall. But overall, pretty little simple job, but it was a perfect and most ideal situation to break these 1/4 inches out, because lots of different situations, lots of studs, lots of fasteners, you know, different sizes, different weird positions. Wanted to get different angles, the best that I could to share with you guys, to show you, you know, I did accidentally drop it too. I had one little tiny nip here, but nothing, no big deal with that. Overall, I find that the ratchet is extremely comfortable. I like how long the handle is. Okay, that was another thing that I liked about it. The handle itself, you know, where before it dips out and then goes skinny, I like the fact that it's longer. It's a longer handle. So those of us that have fairly large hands, it's actually perfect for my grip. So that's another thing that I like about it. Didn't have any issues with binding in the selector switch. Didn't have any tooth slippage at all. I actually put this behind some pretty forceful stuff. And then there was another situation I wanted to show you guys. So I did use the 3/8 flex head that I had previously received to try to crack loose a rusted fastener. And after a couple of hard jerks, I got the one to go. But on the other side, I just couldn't. Now, granted, that was a 10-inch ratchet, so I stepped it up to a longer one. You see, it was a snap-on. I stepped it up to a longer one. I think it was like an 18 or 19-inch ratchet, also bare handle 3/8 drive, and it did what I needed it to do. And then I could run it out with the cordless. So, and I use cordless because it makes you faster, but in certain spots that you can't get a cordless in, it's nice to have flex heads. I love flex heads. I absolutely do. There's a time and a place for fixed heads too, though. And we'll get into that a little bit later on as I run into more positions where I can show you when it's nice to have a fixed head versus having a flex head, when it's nice having a flexed head versus having a fixed head. Now, I will tell you this, if I had to pick one over the other, which was I going to buy first, I would buy the flex head first, all day long, and then go to the fixed. Because most kits come with fixed ratchets, and they're free, and you can use them for what positions you're going to run into where you wish you had it. Not a big deal. So, that being said, 2 thumbs up to the 1/4 inch. Alright guys, so I'll pretty much wrap up today's video. If you have any questions, or if you want to reach out to me and connect with me socially, you can do so on Instagram. You can do so on our community page of YouTube. You can hit me up on Facebook if you want. Those are the 3 sources of social media that I actually follow and pay attention to. The ones that I'm most actively involved in is YouTube and Instagram, so that's probably the better way to get back to me, is probably through Instagram or the community on YouTube nowadays. So that's all I got for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's content. I'm giving Icon 2 thumbs up for the 1/4 inch. I didn't have any issues, or I didn't run into similar issues that some people might be bringing up. I find it to be a worthwhile product to invest in. But again, you guys are grown ass men. Pick what you want, buy what you want. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I'm here to share with you my thoughts. That's all I got for this video. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers and deuces.